Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to our LinkedIn Live event. We are now live, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Chantal Milloy, your host and moderator. I've spent over 25 years in business transformation roles, thinking about the impact of change on our people. And now, as co-founder, COO at Levvel, I'm honored to lead a team that specializes in helping leaders and employees navigate through change with the goal of increasing adoption. The integration of AI into our workplace is and will be a massive change, as I'm sure is not a surprise to anybody joining us. And today we're going to be diving in to chat about just that, which is AI adoption in the workplace. Let's get to know our panelists a little bit with some introductions. And so let's start things off with an introduction from Katya.
Thank you, Chantal. My name is Katya Laviolette. I am the Chief People Officer for 1Password. We are a cybersecurity company, obviously in the identity security space, taking care of protecting both consumers and businesses alike in terms of cybersecurity risks. We are in 5 countries. We are over 1,200 employees, and we are a private company with Canadian roots. We're 18 years in the making, a bootstrapped business that has investor funding since 2019, and a very high scale, high growth business, and just pleased to be here to talk about AI specifically within the security space.
That's awesome. Thank you, Katya. And Paul, let's go to you.
Yeah, thanks, Chantal. Paul Twigg, CTO of Digital Commerce Group, Chief Geek, I think is my real title. Their Digital Commerce Group, financial services, anything to do with moving money. We look at. I consider myself an AI enthusiast. Then super excited about today's discussion.
Amazing. And let's go to you, Sam.
Thanks for having me here today. My name is Sam Jenkins. I'm one of the partners here at Punchcard Systems, and we're a digital transformation studio. We work with lots of different types of organizations, building custom software, building digital tools, and helping them adopt technology for the future.
Awesome. And so everyone that's with us here viewing live, throughout the event, if you do have questions or comments, please type them in. We'll review and reply to all of them in the coming days. We won't be doing so live today, but you'll get a response from this panel on all of your thoughts and questions. So thank you so much for doing that. Let's start us off with our first discussion point. We want to talk about the impact of integrating AI in the workplace on the people. So Katya, we'll start with you. And if you could talk to us a little bit about how you think AI will reshape roles and organizational structures, drive initiatives forward, and foster a culture of innovation. But we'll open it up, as we said, to all panelists and have a nice, robust discussion on that topic. So Katya, over to you.
Sure. It's interesting the verb tense you use, because it is reshaping, and it's been going on for quite some time, and it's like kind of this curve that's just moving this way. So, you know, AI has been around for a long time, but I think the bulk of the population really started talking about it in late 2022. And I can tell you at 1Password, when we started to kind of dig into it as an executive team, we were like, oh yeah, let's kind of test and learn and iterate. And the first reaction, pretty well across the board, was like, oh, you know, like, I don't think that's going to change jobs and have that much impact and so forth. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I think something big is going to happen here. And so I say to people that if you're trying to resist AI, well, good luck with that. You should plunge in and you should figure it out, because it has an impact on everything we do, not just in our professional lives, but also in our personal lives as well. So I think it's something that is not a fad, and it's obviously here to stay. So in terms of impact, when you take a look at the HR function from a very concrete perspective, we're taking a look at, you know, just overall in all our sub-functions in HR, what's it going to do? So yes, it's going to have an impact on jobs, but the first order of business is how do we integrate it within our operations and take a look and test and iterate in an efficient way? And then what do we do externally from the HR function to look at how it impacts the workplace? So we're looking at a number of different things, you know, low-hanging fruit in the recruitment function from an efficiency and productivity standpoint. You can look at JDs, you can look at communications, you can build beautiful PowerPoints. and so on and so forth. But I think what the purpose of today is to talk about AI and how it's impacting organizations, and what we can do as leaders around the table here to make sure that we are going with AI, we are implementing things, but we're doing them in a prudent way. We all represent in some way security. Security is critical. There's a lot of tools out there. Everyone is talking about AI. Some of it is very relevant and practical and concrete, and other things, frankly, are, I will say it's quite not very quite direct, but sometimes very just fly by night and not well designed. And so I think that it's incumbent on each and every one of us as leaders, even in the HR space, to understand what are we dealing with, and then bring it down into how do we manage that from a change in the people perspective. So lots going on, and a lot in a disruptive way, but I think we need to look at it in a positive way, because it will bring a lot of change and also a lot of efficiency for us.
Yep, Paul, Sam, I know as co-panelists you're going to have an opinion here, so weigh in with your thoughts.
I can jump in. Sam, one of the things I was thinking about, Katya, as you said that, being the geek in the room here, so to speak, I'm probably the one that's causing some of that pain, because hey, I'm looking at this and saying, how can I use AI, right? And where can we use AI in the organization? Not necessarily should I, right? It's literally where can I use it? One of the thoughts that always comes to mind is, I hear a lot of people scared for jobs, or AI's got job replacement thoughts in there. And the reality of it is, if we're doing AI at its base form, which is really more automation than artificial, right? I think the A stands for finding those tasks that people just don't want to do. Hey, I've got to go scour through 500 resumes. Well, no, let's have an AI go and process that, create a summary for us, build the correct criteria. And I understand that introduces other problems, but really focus on allowing humans to do the job they were employed for, right? Let AI do all of these little tasks, these pattern-oriented things that they do day to day in their job. So, for me, I think it's so important that organizations embrace AI in a way that, hey, it actually doesn't replace jobs. It actually frees up our human employees to think and do the things that they were actually employed for. Sam?
Yeah, I'm going to pull kind of on that thread a little bit too, because you bring up the how can I use AI question. As an entrepreneur growing an organization, I think a lot about the organizational stresses that are being put on our teams here today. And when we're thinking about this impact question around AI, I kind of put elements into two buckets. One, like, what are the tactical ways that we are, or what are the tactical impacts on the organization? So, for example, when we're talking about the HR workload, being able to work through HR processes more effectively, or through collaborative workflow as well, right? Transcribing meetings, or suggesting action items, or facilitating document management, that type of thing. But then when I bump things up to the strategic impact of the organization, that's really where the how can I use and how should I be using AI more effectively comes into play. Because when I think about the big strategic impact of the organization, and I see this actively in our organization here today, is the flattening of the organization in terms of the organizational structure. And why I think about the flatter structure, it's really because we're using AI to automate decision-making processes. We are decentralizing the organization a little bit more effectively, so that more people have autonomy within the organization because we're leveraging AI. So part of that is, how are we scaling up our teams to be able to leverage those tools? But then how are we also giving people the room to be able to experiment, to be able to gain insight, and then act in an agile or an adaptive fashion to help us use these tools that are at our disposal here today? And I mean, the challenge with these tools, and we were talking about this in our preambles, the tools are changing so rapidly, right? I mean, we are putting these stresses on our organizations and stresses on our people to learn faster than ever before. And we have to give some space to be able to make change and potentially make some mistakes along the way too.
Can we not use AI to learn though, Sam?
Well, and And I think there's some irony there, right? But I think we are going to have to do some trust in our people and in the tools to be able to make that AI learning loop as effective as possible.
So if I may, for people who may be listening, just in terms of like, how do you introduce this concept into your organizations without necessarily resisting it? I can maybe speak about a bit of our reality at 1Password. We basically put together a multifunctional team across the business and representing each and every function. And we went out and we said, well, how is AI going to affect all of our functions? And then let's start testing, as Paul is talking about, certain tools that might help us from an efficacy perspective. And this isn't even on the product design side. This is internal to kind of low-hanging fruit. So each and every function identified where they wanted to go and what kind of tools. And we're right in there in terms of HR with 2 to 3 tools that we're testing, in addition to obviously looking at our product development in terms of our own product itself. What I will say, for those who are out there testing it, is you need to ask the right questions, you need to dig deep, you need to test and so forth, but make sure that things are sustainable, that they're well designed, that they're secure, and so forth. So there's a lot of businesses out there that come to us every day selling something, and we're trying to figure out what are the tools that are going to be around and going to evolve with us, rather than they've just kind of been slapped together and people are saying we're just using AI. So those are important things when you're looking at it from a business perspective, in my mind.
Yeah.
You use that word sustainability, and I think, like, while AI is a technology, like we're talking about in terms of influencing our organizations using technology and digital, it is actually it's a people thing, right? It's an organizational sustainability tool. And if we aren't thinking sustainability first, well, we have the opportunity to burn people out pretty readily, because there is so much change happening in the world around us.
Yeah, agreed. Great comments from all of you. And it's funny, I think, Paul, when you were speaking about your comments, it reminded me of a quote that's out there in social or LinkedIn right now about please let AI help me with the things I don't want to do, like laundry and ironing, and not with writing my songs and creating my art. So it just reminded me of that quote on if we need to find that balance of automation for the good of us and allowing us to do higher order beneficial work within our organization. So thanks for that. I'm going to move us to the second discussion topic, and we'll get into it again, which I have no fear this group will do. So thank you for all your comments and jumping in. I want to talk a little bit about best practices and strategies for successful AI adoption across functions. And in particular, Paul, I'll throw to you with a starter question is, what do you see as essential for effective AI integration? It could include, assessing readiness, identifying practical use cases, which we did talk a little bit about in the first segment, building skilled teams, and implementing phased plans. So I know you'll have lots of thoughts on how to get started in the use cases, and let's open it up with you on a discussion there.
Yeah, maybe what I'll do is kind of dive into a few points where I've had success or I've seen success in AI, and I think one of the problems with AI is it's so broad that in reality you can burn out your whole organization in a week, considering everything that all the places that it could be used there, or all the places it shouldn't be used, as a matter of fact, right? I think there's that constant talk about, is AI making the correct decision, right? And well, AI is a computer. Computers don't think. They do what they're told to do. And some people argue that thought when you get into the concepts around deep learning with AI, right? Because they really are starting to think, and we're moving away from that old concept. But here are my points, I think, for success. I think number one is consider AI today, and this will change over time, but consider AI today as human-assisted AI, right? Mm-hmm. Don't consider it as full-blown AI, as just robots off doing their own thing. We're starting to see that, right? Chantal, you mentioned, get rid of some of my chores. Well, now we've got robots cutting our grass. We've got robots vacuuming our house. We're starting to see some of these things disappear. Ironing would be a fantastic one. I haven't seen that yet, but I'll get that the day that happens. But focus on your human-assisted AI. Let me give you an example. There, we can put AI on a support desk very, very easily. There's lots of great solutions out there for AI on a support desk. However, can that AI actually respond to all of the different scenarios of a human calling in? And I'm going to suggest no, right? As much as some companies may suggest it can, I guarantee there will be edge cases that they can't. So keep your humans on the support desk and use AI to prefetch information, to provide those support agents access to the information that they need to be able to deliver what that customer that's calling in actually requires, right? That would be number one. Number two, Gen AI, actually it's taken us a while to mention Gen AI on the call here, but Gen AI is a technology that's out there, and I've heard of so many companies blocking it because they're scared of what needs to happen. Instead of blocking it, create a use policy, right? Just like we have with the internet. Internet use policies have been around for decades, right? Let's create this policy again. Hey, don't copy and paste company secrets into Gen AI. Why? Because it's probably going to save them, use it for training and do something with it, right? Just like you probably don't want to do the same thing of submitting it into a search engine. But when we're using Gen AI, and Katya kind of introduced this topic a little bit here, the biggest advantage we've got is think about the questions that we need to ask rather than the answers, right? Right now we're in this climate of answers are good. I'm going to suggest that Gen AI, right, is ask it, what questions should I be asking? So I've got a data set, right? What questions should I ask about that data set? Not what are the answers or what are the patterns? And then my third, I got 4 pieces, but my third one is, you're going to do a proof of concept, maybe in an organization. If you do take that route, instead of just going live with something, make sure you got 10 times your proof of concept budget to go live, right? Otherwise, it's going to fail, right? And then my last one is, it's really back to that embrace it again. We've all got Copilot or access to Copilot, right? Microsoft Copilot or this Copilot or that Copilot. In fact, there are 100 different Copilots out there. Get it installed on everybody's machines, get them using Copilot. My developers use Copilot, right? I'm not scared that Copilot's going to code incorrectly because I've got human developers that are going to make sure it doesn't, right? But why should they have to write the same set of code all the time? Copilot helps them do that. So those are 4 points where I think we'll get a lot of success in AI adoption.
Yeah, it's good, Paul. I'm going to throw to Sam there because I heard Copilot, I heard Microsoft. I know Sam's got a few things to share on your world.
Well, and Paul, you bring up when you talk about human-assisted AI, I think that is the place that we're living right now, and that human word is likely the most important part in terms of what makes a successful project, right? I mean, we're here to serve the needs within our organization as well as our customer needs. How might we use these tools to be able to create more value together? We know that AI can enhance collaboration. If we're thinking about the Microsoft Teams ecosystem, Copilot, and whatnot. But I think where it comes down to is, what types of partnerships are we building between our people workload and our technology workloads? And do we have absolute clarity in terms of what we're trying to get done? Paul mentioned building up proof of concept. I think that's a brilliant technique. I had a mentor who used to say, small experiments with radical intent. And I think AI is one of those workloads that enable us to be able to experiment really, really rapidly. Now, I also think a lot about clarity in terms of goal setting around AI. I think there are many organizations who have done a bit of a spray and pray approach to how they've implemented their AI tools. And I think there has to be strategy. Katya mentioned building cross-functional teams throughout the organization to be able to guide some of this implementation strategy. And I think that's really critical, because at the end of the day, it is not just IT who is going to benefit from the nature of an AI implementation. It is the entire organization that has to get to own it. but it comes back to clarity. When Patrick Lencioni talks about clarity in terms of organizational health, that is not a technical workload. It is a sustainability workload within our organizations. And the more we can create that clarity with our people in terms of why we are implementing AI tools, then we get around to the how. The how is the easy part. As Paul mentioned, we've got lots of smart people in our organizations. We can give them tools to be able to do the work. Let's help them understand why we're going to use those tools and use that as the vector to be able to create interesting opportunities.
I love that. Katya, I'm sure with your background and the why and people, yeah, would love your thoughts on that topic as well.
Well, I agree with my colleagues in terms of Paul and Sam, so I'm not going to repeat what they're saying. I will just kind of riff on it and talk about two additional elements that I think are important. And I talk about this with my team. I say, you know what, we need to be smarter than AI. So you need to embrace it and you need to figure it out. And I'll give you a real concrete example of what we saw just last week. I think it was like Business Insider that posted an article about proxy interviews. And there's this new software out now that actually, if you're interviewing me, Chantal, and I'm the candidate, I can have this software on my screen and you can be asking me a question and it's basically teleprompting me what to answer. And so this is just one thing coming down. And I think some people are up in arms about it, but I'm like, okay, well, great to be up in arms, but let's figure out what we're going to do about it to make sure that our work is value added from a people perspective. So we need to understand what all that HR tech what's going on out there, and then how are we going to address it? And I'm saying to my TA team, well, let's get questions going that are smarter than that so we can really understand if we're interviewing the individual themselves. Are we doing good background checks? Are we really good with our onboarding process and so forth? So all that comes down to the people aspect of it. So really, really like getting ahead of what we're going to see, because we're going to see some good stuff and we're going to see some stuff that we think is somewhat controversial, but it's the reality. I think the other thing that's really important is you should build a community of experts. So we've been talking to a number of individuals out there. I bring in people regularly to talk about AI to our business, especially within the realm of HR AI. And what are they seeing? So we can actually think about what we're going to experience. And then you start to really test and iterate. And then the third thing is, like, once you become, I don't know if we're ever going to become experts in it, but you have to embrace it. And from an HR practitioner standpoint, then you can really partner with your internal clients, be it obviously the technology function, but many other internal clients, to really help them shape that change and that entire change management plan, because this is a relatively large change for individuals. And when it comes to change management, I feel like, the decade ago of like, you have like a 5-step process in change or a 7-step process in change. I'm like, I think you need to be very nimble about how you're going to manage it and very open, and probably we're going to recreate some new models of change as we go.
Yeah, it's well said, Katya. I'd agree 100%. It's the work we do. And I think it's perfect to set up our third topic here, which is addressing pushback from employees. You started to touch on that. Let's go a little deeper. We're going to start with you, Sam, and I'll set you up with, how do you think organizations and leaders can overcome common concerns about AI adoption and fears of job displacement? We talked a little bit about that, but let's dig in there on your thoughts on how we're going to deal with this.
So I'm going to pull on a thread from Katya there in terms of people again, because I think what's interesting about that is I think we have to change, like, not only how we're hiring, but kind of the who of the hiring process as well. And while it's beyond just bums and seats, now we have to really think about, like, how are we hiring the right people to be able to harness this type of change? And that's going to be one of, I think, our key factors to be able to help organizations adopt AI tools most effectively. Katya, you used the word nimble. And again, it's really easy to agree with that as a core quality of the people that we need to be thinking about for the future. And also probably building some of those resiliency skill sets in our teams going forward. one thing that we say around our shop a lot, and I'm sure people get tired of hearing it, is we don't know what we don't know. And I think that is what's absolutely true for employees in our organizations here today. So how can we create a little bit of infrastructure around helping people feel safer to be able to address the changing nature of the AI platforms around us? Now, I think there's probably some other cultural elements that are really important for us. We briefly talked about this earlier here today in terms of culture of innovation. I think really, really important to be able to experiment. But beyond that, I think it's encouraging a culture of trust. If we can build an organization or build organizational tools around understanding what it means to trust the organization and trust each other a little bit more fulsomely, I think that gives us a better tool set to be able to adapt to the change that's going to come along with AI. But that comes back down to clarity. How are we setting goals effectively within our teams so that people understand what these AI tools are going to do for the organization today, tomorrow, and into the future? But happy to hear from the other hosts here too.
Yeah, I'd add to that comment. I think will it displace people in organizations? And I think it will displace people that don't want to take change. But AI is not new in that, right? I mean, we've seen change in organizations all the way through, and I think that's why why do we put change management on projects, right? Because there's big change coming into an organization as a project gets delivered. Right, or change in industries. Why do we really focus on this concept of change? Because we've got to embrace it, and AI is absolutely no different to that, right? We've got to be able to be ready for that change, right? And I give you a little example here. So when we look at how do we make this AI successful, how do we address pushback? We could very easily just expose Gen AI in our organizations and say, hey, use it, right? And nobody quite understands that. And nobody sees really the results of that and until you start paying some really close attention, where all of a sudden now tasks get finished faster. And now the people that are not using Gen AI start to get left behind. Right? Because I can put a bunch of bullet points in and I can get a PowerPoint deck out, and it takes like 30 seconds to do that, including some images and maybe even a video now. From a corporate perspective, though, we look at this and I think, one of the real values is, do I use Gen AI or do I get to the next level? I'm in banking. Do we use a finance model, or do I even get to the next level and say, okay, I'm actually going to use a fraud model? And now I've got the attention of anybody that's got money that wants to put it in there and say, oh, hold on, we can actually use AI to start detecting fraud, and solve this $1 trillion problem that's out there. And I'm like, yeah, we can, right? Because that's what AI is good at, is looking at patterns and looking at analysis. So anywhere where you've got humans that are doing analysis of things, help them speed up their jobs. Right, by having AI assist them in that analysis, right? But don't assume AI is always right? That's why the humans are there, is to validate and look at the exceptions.
Yeah, Paul, you just hit on a great point there, right? Is for people to see themselves in not only the why, but also that it's not replacing you, it's enhancing you. Right. Techniques for change when we think about how to hit that. So Katya, would love your thoughts on that pushback from employees and some of the things in your experience that you feel will resonate the most with our employees, as some of this may be scary for people. We forget that those developing this or closer to it have been there a long time. And when someone's new to learning about what this could possibly do to them and their jobs and their assistants, it's, it takes a bit to accept that.
I think too, there's a level of what industry do you work in and what type of business. And I actually think the pushback is healthy, especially when you work in the security industry. So we have a very robust security department, obviously to build our product, but to protect all the tools that we're using inside as well from a tech stack perspective. And, when we first started to kind of experiment, when we build into, like when our HR function goes out and procures a tool in the HR tech stack, it has to go through a robust and rigorous, not just a procurement process, but a security review. And like kind of off the bat, everyone's like, oh, no, we don't know enough about this AI. It's dangerous and so forth. And you can see the evolution of the human as we get more comfortable with this. And obviously there are just tools that we have to implement, but we have to ask the right questions. So I really think it is a learning and an evolution in kind of those phases of change. And so it's like it's education and context. You know, we regularly communicate to our employees number of programs. Sometimes they go down really well, sometimes they don't. I just had an incident last week where I was like, wow, we need to give a lot more context, a lot more facts. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, oh, I understand now, Katya, that makes a lot of sense. So pushback is actually, I see it as positive because it's telling you need to do something and you need to figure it out rather than just barrel on through and try and implement your change, which can be very risky to the organization. And so, yeah, I just think it's a healthy tension and change. This is, again, it's not just in your professional life. You see this all the time. So it's like, how do we as leaders manage that well?
Like you said it so well, Katya, and what we say, you know, whether it's resistance, you call it pushback, you can call it a million things in change management these days, but it's a gift. If you don't hear it, how will you know how to address those concerns? Yeah. And that's the heart. You want to know. You need a safe environment to make sure people can tell you that and put strategies in. Let's go into our next discussion point. Katya, I am going to start with you on this one, and in the topic of building future-ready organizations. So specifically, if we can talk a little bit about how can leaders ensure that organizational strategies align with the vision for AI integration? I think we talk sometimes about it has to start with the leaders. Of course, it has to start with an aligned leadership group, in our opinion, and in our work. So talk a little bit about org strategy and AI integration and how you've even seen those two things at play.
Well, I think when I look back and I think about, you know, when you know, the world started really talking about it. And again, I do reiterate that it's been around for a long time, but when it became very, very known, it was kind of like something on the side, like beside you, like, here's your plan, here are your OKRs, here's your strat plan. Okay, well, AI, like, we'll just kind of put that in as a not a notation, but maybe an additional initiative. And it's actually like now something that has to weave through everything you do. And so again, it's like an evolution of change and the growth. And I think for all organizations like it was, you know, kudos to our CEO. He was, you know, right out of the docket. He was basically saying, I want you all to look at this, each and every one of you. This is going to change our lives, especially in tech, especially in SaaS companies. I think you've got kind of the early adoption model in these industries, and then you might have like manufacturing that might be different, although there is automation in manufacturing. And I think those who are going to use it very efficiently will be ahead of the curve. So I think it's something that is, in short, not on the side, not an add-on like, oh, by the way, have you thought of this? It's actually weaving itself through everything you do.
That's great. Paul, yeah, I would love your thoughts in this. You know, you've spent tons of time thinking and talking about this through several webinars and in live person.
Yeah, I think Katya, you nailed it there as well. And it's going to depend on the organization. But, you know, I can give you some personal experience from one of the roles I had in a company where I was asked to help all of the top people stop leaving that organization. And one of the strategies that we put in place is, let's just go do some good stuff, right? And with some really cool technology. And so, you know, we started to look at, hey, how could AI be used to help those that, you know, really, you know, can't help themselves sometimes, right? So, you know, we looked at how do we help people get into a homeless shelter faster than they do today? We looked at, you know, can we understand PTSD to lower the effects of that and, you know, suicide? You know, we looked at how can we analyze data to understand where power was being stolen, and lots of cool little side projects where we're able to, you know, not really push things into production, right, and make massive changes in an industry, but as a team really come together and consider how can technology be used for good. And and it absolutely changed the perception of the people in the organization, and help them believe that, hey, there is something that we're actually doing that's more than just earning a paycheck with technology, right? And so, I really honestly believe, when an organization is just starting on a journey with a technology, unless there is something specific that there's a good return on investment that we can get. If it's about engaging your team, right? Think about how that technology can do good, right? And I guarantee you'll find a use case that you can go then and develop.
I love that, Paul. Sam would love your thoughts. Purpose, right? We do. Every human needs purpose.
Oh, 100%. And I think about the organization that we're building, or at least trying to build. We're a technology organization for sure, but we're made up of people, and it's those people who are enacting their purpose, both individually and as an organization, that help us get to whatever the next level is going to be within our organization. And you used the word aligned leadership earlier. I think that's probably one of the most critical elements to be able to define whether or not an organization is going to be ready for kind of change and AI. Have we properly set a vision that people understand? Do we properly understand our workforce and where they're at today? Not every organization is, we'll say, at the most mature point at which they can adopt all AI tools. We have to understand who works within our organization today so that we can work with them to move up that maturity ladder. And I think there's also a measurement thing that is really important here. As we've adapted our organization, especially over this past 18 months, right, with the explosion of generative AI and the conversations, we've really thought about what this culture of innovation means to our organization. We've thought about what that means in terms of budgeting and setting aside time for our teams. We've also tried to figure out how do we align our performance metrics most effectively around AI goals as well. Because if we aren't understanding, well, as they say, if it's not measured, it may not matter. And so within our organization, we want to make sure that we are trying to introduce KPIs that measure the success of our programs, both adoption programs, training programs, implementation programs, as they relate to AI, so that we can see the impact on our business outcomes. Because at the end of the day, it's not the technology that is the purpose behind this. It's people being able to fulfill their purpose within our organization that is the real important impetus behind our AI adoption frameworks within our organizations. Now, that also means that we're not going to get every one of them wrong, right? The next generation organization, the next generation organization is resilient because we can experiment and we can fail. And I think that's part of this culture of innovation, culture of trust, culture of adaptability that we need to really encourage to be able to be ready for the future when it comes to AI and AI adoption in our orgs.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Yeah, agile, right? I mean, there's this, it's not the first thing that's gone agile here, but we need to be thinking this way continually for our people as well. I cannot believe how fast time has flown here, and I knew it actually with this group that we would have hold a fantastic discussion. I want to move us to some closing remarks to give each of you an opportunity to leave the audience that's joined us today with those key messages that you would like them to hear from your perspective when it comes to AI adoption in the workplace. Katya, I'd love to start with you and some closing remarks for our audience.
Sure, thanks. I would look at it, my closing in two chunks, I would say. First, as for those who may be listening in the HR field, you get a lot of calls about tools and so forth. Do your due diligence, check in, understand them, understand what's behind them. Are they well funded? Are they well developed? Are they sustainable? Are they scalable for your organization? And are they secure? So really building up like a robust kind of due diligence practice in your tooling. Because everyone's offering AI, it's kind of becoming table stakes, but what is the real purpose of that? That's super important. The second piece is around the change for humans in the organization. So you have your tools and your efficacy and your productivity, and then you as an HR practitioner, how are you going to help transform the organization and make sure that they can work through this change? And I really do believe, as I'd said before, it's not really a change model from, 2010 these days. Everything's moving quickly. So You need to be nimble. You need to be very self-aware, understand your workforce and how things are happening, have context, have facts. So really, really important. The tooling piece is super important. And then how do you support the business? And those marry themselves together in the AI ecosphere.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Katya. Let's go to you, Paul, for your key messages, closing remarks.
Yeah, and I'll keep it quite small here, but operational work items will always get in the way, day-to-day things, right? Why? Because we're running a business, we're doing our jobs. That will always happen, right? So if I had one piece of advice to leaders in organizations, right? If you don't plan, it's never going to happen. I think Sam mentioned this as well, and it really is as simple as that, right? AI will not happen off the side of somebody's desk. Why? Because all of their day-to-day items will, right? So get it into your board meetings, get it into your management meetings, into your leadership meetings. Talk about it in all these meetings so that your employees start talking about it. Then it's very easy to plan for it and get those key metrics of how you're going to get the return.
Thanks, Paul. Sam, let's go to you.
Well, I don't want to repeat what anybody else has said. So I think probably if I'm my nugget of value, that if I was leaving somebody with one thing, AI isn't a technical impact to the organization, it's a business impact. And so how are we creating that common or that shared set of vision, that shared set of goals within our organization? And then beyond that, how are we communicating that really effectively throughout the organization? And as Paul mentioned at the top of the hour, use AI to help facilitate that communication really effectively. And it's part of that practice of putting AI into our organizations fulsomely.
Amazing. I want to thank each and every one of you, our panelists, for joining us today. Your insights, your contributions. I knew it would be a great discussion. Thank you so much. And to everybody who joined us live and our viewers that are there, thank you very much for joining us. We'll review your questions and comments, as we said at the beginning, and reply to every one of you in the coming days. And watch for round 2. We are continuing on with our AI adoption in the workplace series with 3 new panelists that'll be joining us in September, again on LinkedIn Live. So watch out for that through our social and through LinkedIn. And let's close there and say, have an awesome day.
Thank you, Chantal.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.